Several weeks of playing entirely different style offenses. At least this week is a little more consistent.
A little more carryover this week. It's big boy football. They want to run the football. They do a great job with it. The young tailback they have is putting up a lot of yards, a lot of numbers, and their offensive line is gigantic. They do a great job moving people off the ball. The tight ends do a good job blocking, and then they'll spread them out and distribute the ball really well to them. Talented group of receivers. It's kind of like last week where they distribute the ball. There's not one guy that's getting all the catches. They distribute the ball around really well.
You've coached a lot of good defensive ball players in different stops. Is there anybody you can kind of compare Chris Jones to at this level of his career, what he's able to do at such a young age? Or is there no comparison?
Yeah. I mean, he's one of the biggest, most physical kids, just naturally gifted kids I've ever been around. I was going to say Calvin Johnson. I was with him at Georgia Tech. Completely different, dynamic, but that same kind of physical presence at his position. So he's the Megatron of the Starkville defense, I guess.
Is he a natural leader as well?
He is. He's a great personality. He's a kid that walks into the room and you can just feel the energy, in the room change a little bit. And, I think we're kind of starting to see that out on the football field too. His personality is starting to come out, when he's out there playing. And I think that's a positive for everybody.
You tell him to do that? You can emphasize his leadership ability?
A little bit. Coach Turner's with him most times. Coach Turner does a great job. One of the big things is just managing the expectations. I think when he first got here and he was such a highly recruited kid, the expectations were through the roof, and I think Coach Turner did a great job of making sure he understood that he had to get his technique, his fundamentals down before all of those things could, start to happen for him, and not to get frustrated, not to get down on himself if it didn't happen. And I think we're starting to see the rewards of that right now.
How would you evaluate your performance against Alabama?
There was a lot of good things. The big thing we talked about going into the game was just having the right mindset. It was going to be a physical ball game, 16-minute ball game, and it was going to be, man on man, let's, see who's tougher. And, I thought our kids rose to that challenge. They played a physical ball game, and, other than two busted run fits, I thought we played the run game pretty well as well the whole game.
He's had a couple of good games, the past two games, Beniquez. I'm talking about the game he had.
Right. Beniquez, he did, it hurts, losing Skinner, for the last 2 weeks because, we all feel so strongly about Deontay. But Beniquez, had been playing a lot. Coach Mullen's big emphasis, all the time is make sure the young guys are playing and play them early in games, and we've done that all year long for Beniquez. And so we got his chance to get in there and play, and he's done a really nice job for us.
When you watch or show Chris the sack where he's double teamed by the center and the guard, and he still gets to McCarron, do you have to hold back a little bit and not show him how excited you are?
Right. Well, I mean, it was a nice play. And that, the people don't recognize is Preston Smith created it for him. And it kind of goes back to kind of how unselfish the guys are on this team. Is Preston's the one who actually created the pick for Chris. Chris ran the stunt really well and got the sack. So we got to work on the celebration a little bit. But other than that, it was a good play.
Speaking of celebration, Kept Tevez said he brought the balls to you there.
He did.
That's consecutive weeks now, and 3 times this season.
Right.
A different defensive back has gotten 2 interceptions a game, so they're starting to make plays there.
Yeah, and the thing that we talked about is there were 2 games where we got 0. And, the big emphasis all spring during preseason was getting the ball, creating turnovers. It's all about the ball. And we hit that little dry spell, and we just stuck with the same message. And, turnovers kind of come in waves. And we said once it happens, it'll be a flood of them. And I think that happened the last 2 games. Hopefully we don't hit another dry spell anytime soon.
When did you start that, Geoff? Just having the guy who got the turnover give you the ball? Is that something you wanted to do?
I think probably Western Carolina, and I don't know if y'all have been back in the hallways and outside the defensive meeting rooms. We have a get the ball wall. When I was at Western Carolina, we started that, and it kind of, because guys want to see their picture, so every time they get a turnover, we put their picture up, and usually with good a job as you guys do with the photos, we usually have a picture of them actually with the turnover, and that actually goes up on the wall for them. So they take pride in it. As you go down the season, there's week 1, Oklahoma State, there were 2, then there were 6, and then there was 5, whatever it was. And then you come to the wall, and there's a blank space, and then another blank space. You kind of reminded of how important it is to get turnovers.
Talk about Christian Holmes, man, back over there, linebacker back.
The great thing about Christian is even though whenever he went, to the other side of the ball, kept a great relationship with him. What a great kid. And then Tuesday at practice, we found out Deontay wasn't going to be able to play. Let's get Christian over there and let him play, and did a fantastic job for us. And to his credit, when we played Texas A&M, had a pretty extensive game plan getting ready for Johnny football. Whenever he was in the game, never had to change the game plan. So all of the defenses, all the different packages that we had in, Christian learned them, he studied them, and to his credit, I think that says a lot about who he is as a player and as a person.
Since he drew his 2-quarter suspension of that game, Nico's come back and seemed to play his best ball, particularly in pass coverage.
He really has. And, the thing that I don't know what happened, but I think the way him and Tony Hughes handled that situation and the way he is practiced is really a testament to him and what kind of character he has. And, one of the biggest plays in the game Saturday was on that busted run TJ had right before halftime. We had Nico on a deep half on the other side of the field and ran down one of the fastest kids in the SEC out in the open field, made a great play, to almost save the drive for us. So, I just think the world of him, and, he's a great player and a great person.
On Saturday, I think you had either six guys, either freshmen or sophomores, starting. What's the difference in coaching those guys compared to older people? Because they're making mistakes. It's the first time they've ever been out there.
Right. And then what I've done today is we've kind of had all the young guys come in and see us, because on Mondays we have some time, during the classes where they come over and just spend about 5-10 minutes just talking about their roles, their development, because you'll turn on the film and there'll be 11 guys that are all going to be back here for the next year, for 2 years, some of them even 3 years, and just coaching that youth kind of, there's some situations that it's brand new for them, but then you look for the future and how bright the future is around here, especially defensively.
Were you impressed with your DBs in the sense that it seemed like McCarron even bought himself some extra time and your guys didn't quit on the play, and at the very least he still had to dump it off on the flat?
And I think the experience the week before, just like Bob said, the little experiences that you have, good job, little experiences that you have, all add up week in and week out, and then throughout a season, like John Banks and some of those guys that have played 4 years, you see the rewards of that at the end. And I think Coach Towns and Coach Hughes have done a great job with those young DBs.